it helps you to study for a test, right? So right now, the focus isn't so much or isn't only on the final answer. It is also the work, right? So it asked to find the area and the perimeter of the following, right? So I don't know about you, but the first thing that I try to do is to see, right, if I were to find the perimeter, what information is missing, right? Or even if I need to find the areas of the different shapes, right? So if you cut it this way or cut it that way, it's up to you. But really, right, this 855 here is going to be worth 1 mark, okay? Because you had to add these two shorter sides, right, to get the 855. So if 855 shows up somewhere, you get 1 mark already. If you have, 1 second here. If you have the 322 show up here somewhere, you get a mark as well, right? Because you needed these two here to come up with the area, right? So there you have 1 mark for each of these here. And I will say something else though. Let's say for whatever reason you don't have it on there, you manage to calculate it without showing that. If you come up with this area and you have significant amount of work showing, you would get 4 marks because this whole question is worth 5. 1 goes for perimeter and 4 marks are distributed amongst the area. So you get 1 mark for coming up with the correct first section that you cut. You get another mark for the second section that was cut. And then it's assuming that you're going to get this right. But it's the steps here and here that give you 1 mark each. So 1 mark for this, the 322, 1 mark for the 855. 1 mark for coming up with the separate areas, and mind you, if you cut it this way, you will have different numbers, and that's fine, okay? And then you calculate it, so these 2 steps will give you 1 mark each, and then provided that this is correct, right? For perimeter, we're just going to add everything around, right? And it's 3810. Now, let's say you made a mistake here. Let's say for whatever reason you got the 855 wrong, and it's included here, you would not lose the mark for perimeter, right? You use whatever you found and you add it up that way. So the perimeter only gets 1 mark and it's 5 in total for 1A, right? So basically we'll highlight right where the marks are coming from. Okay. Questions? Good. All right. So 5 marks so far. So put a mark out of 5 next to this question, right? Next we have the rectangle and the semicircle. So we would have to add up the 2 areas to find the total area. Area of the first rectangle here, if you have that on there, you got 1 mark. And watch this. This is going to be a little trickier. So you got 1 mark for just coming up with a rectangle. That should be fairly simple. You get 1 mark for this basically dividing, that you're dividing it by 2, right? Because it's just half a circle. So if you have this formula right, meaning you're dividing by 2, you get 1 mark, and then 1 more mark for actually calculating it right, coming up with this number here. Okay, and notice that this was 63, which is the diameter. So half of 63 is the 31.5. That's where I got that from. If you didn't do that, you should take off 1 full mark for not getting your radius. Okay. So if you use 63 in here for whatever reason, I would for sure out of the whole question take off a whole mark at some point. So 1, 2, 3. And for perimeter, you get 1 mark for calculating the circumference of a semicircle because you're only finding half, right? So instead of 2 pi r, it is pi r only. But let's say you went 2 pi r and then divided by 2, it still should give you the same answer. So you get this, and you get 1 mark there. And then 1 more mark for adding it all upright and rounding correctly and so forth. So 1 mark for the rectangle, 1 mark for actually coming up with the right formula of a semicircle, 1 mark for calculating the area of that semicircle. Obviously, this would have to be right. Like if the total area, if you didn't add or anything like that, you would take off 1 mark for sure. If you didn't do the radius, take off 1 mark out of the 5, right, that are up for grabs. Then you get 1 mark for getting that semicircle circumference, and another full mark for actually adding it all up and getting that right. So 1B is also out of 5, so far we're out of 10. Just put a mark down. We're not going to sweat you being off by half or by even 1 mark. In the total big scheme of things, that it's very insignificant, okay? All right, number 2A, calculate the total area of the shaded region. All right. For the following, it should have said there, but anyways. And so here we have a subtraction going on, okay? So finding the area of the rectangle, the full rectangle will be 1. Finding the area of the semicircle, you need to divide by 2 here, watch that, right? You get 1. And then 1 more mark for the fact that you're subtracting them before coming up with your... So sorry, this is not out of 2, that's just something to look out for. If you didn't get this right, I would take off 1 mark because it's not just a small error, it's a concept error. And notice that here the same thing. I got the radius out of this because this represents the diameter of that circle. So half of that. So if you didn't get the radius right, I would also take off 1. So let's say you do get the 2 here, but somehow got the radius wrong. I would take off 1. I wouldn't give 3 out of 3 there. And so that's your answer. Oh, I don't know why I did that, folks. Disregard this. It's this minus that, okay? Shouldn't be a negative, so my bad. I was thinking that's sometimes what I do with my calculator to not retype everything. Okay, so this is out of 3 marks, right? 2A is worth 3 marks, right? Now let's go to the last one, right? So here you're finding the radius, right? By dividing, this is the diameter, so divide it by 2 to get 10.5. So you get 1 mark for getting the correct area of the circle. The triangle was tricky, right? Because the radius is from here to here, which is the same thing as from here to here, right? So the radius is also the height of that triangle. So base, which is 21 times the height, divided by 2, which gives you that. So the 1 mark for the correct triangle, and then 1 mark for actually subtracting them because it's a concept, right? To get the shaded. So it's 6 for the back. Okay. So total is out of 16. Put a mark on it. Out of 16. And I will make a slot available for you to submit. Okay, so if you're at home, and even if you're here, I'd like you to take a picture and submit it. If you forgot your phone or whatever, then I'll just get it from your piece of paper. So let's take a couple minutes and submit this.